The narrative that is being fed is that black people cannot govern, and if they govern, then white people are at risk because maybe they will want to do to us what we have done to them for generations.
Welcome to The Stakes. I'm Brad Rourke with the Charles F. Kettering Foundation. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan operating foundation that focuses on advancing and defending inclusive democracy. Today, I'm talking to Jaco Roets, an international development worker in South Africa. Jaco, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. Really excited to talk to you.
Excited to talk to you too. South Africa is in the news right now for a number of reasons. Earlier in May, the Trump administration welcomed almost 60 white South African Afrikaner farmers who claimed refugee status, and they are now being resettled in Minnesota, Nevada, California, elsewhere. This at the same time when refugee claims from other nations are being denied by the Trump administration. How do you interpret this?
I think the issue for the narrative for me is, who are we trying to save here? A lot of this first wave of 60 people were not all of them are Afrikaans. Some of these people have English heritage, and very few of them were actual farmers. The more we learn about these refugees, the more we know. Someone working for Heineken in a city close to me that just sold a $150,000 house to get refugee status in the US with her 2 kids and her mother. The owner of a granite mine in a northern province that just sold his mine to the Chinese. So in the essence, these are not destitute people that are being threatened daily. These are people that are taking an opportunity to go to the US. What concerns me is actually what this means internally for the US, and we can explore that a bit more as I share about growing up in South Africa and kind of how we perceive whiteness and being a minority in a country.
The Trump administration has for years, but more intensely lately, been claiming that there's white genocide in South Africa, which is driving Afrikaner farmers and others to seek refugee status. That's the claim. And so, to unpack a little bit, what is life like in South Africa for you?
We have a crime problem, like many other countries in the world. Last year, we had about 25,000 murders. Even though our murder rate has dropped per 100,000, it still remains one of the top 5 highest murder rates in the world, which means living in South Africa does come with planning. If you want to go somewhere, you plan, is it safe? Can we go there? Should we go after dark? Can we walk down the street? But as someone that's economically privileged, it also means that I have an electric fence, I have private security. I can't remember when last I had to phone the police because I phone private security first. I have my own private car, so I don't have to walk around. For your average South African, crime and the risk of injury or death is a daily reality. It is something that poor people cannot escape. So if you're wealthier, yes, you kind of build a castle, a fortress to protect yourself. But the poorer you are, the more at risk you are. So this narrative of saving lives, saving people, which lives, which people, the farm murder rate has been proven to drop year on year. Last year, we had 50 murders on agricultural holdings. Not all of them farmers, and not all of them white. In fact, this year, 6 farmers were murdered in the first quarter of this year. 5 of those were black farmers.
I mean, the facts on the ground sound at odds with the narrative that we're hearing. What role do you think misinformation or deliberate misinformation is playing in shaping all this discourse?
It's that fine line of not even disinformation, but just out of context statements in a highly volatile environment that we know can fan flames that sow further division. So not only is, this causing ructions within the US and for other refugee communities. Within South Africa, it is actually fanning open conflict between very extreme groups, which should be a red flag for everyone. But I also have to mention that as a white South African growing up under apartheid, Black people were made out to be a group that you had to fear. It is imparted in you, like almost in your DNA, that as soon as you are in a space and as a white person you are in minority, then there is risk. And since 1994, I think there's been more intentional attempts to bridge the divide and to bring communities together. And those initiatives still continue today in South Africa. But the reality is that the narrative that is being fed is that Black people cannot govern. And if they govern, then white people are at risk because maybe they will want to do to us what we have done to them for generations. And my concern is that this is also a narrative that is pervasive in the US. So the few people that can get asylum in the US under this dubious qualification scheme, while deserving people are being turned away to certain horrors, is that they are just being used as a proxy. Those 60 people go in, they go to Alabama, they go to Minnesota, they go to Nevada. And the story they are telling is that I come from a space where Black people were in the majority. And as a minority, that meant genocide for me and for my culture. They are going into spaces where they will meet with fellow American conservatives, sharing their narrative of you have to protect white power. Because as soon as white power is challenged, genocide is the next qualification. So my concern is more about what message these people are carrying into the US and also what that is going to mean for gains in the civil rights movement in the US over the last couple of decades.
Jaco, continue to draw that line. You've spent a lot of time in the United States, so you're not unfamiliar with our context here. Play that out a little bit, and that narrative about who is qualified to run a country.
I mean, that is really the big question, right? Is if we look at what is happening in the world at the moment, the rise of the right wing, this entire story becomes a powerful messaging tool for saying that we should fear equality, we should fear social justice, we should fear the movement of the marginalized, and actually we should drape perpetrators in victimhood, so that they don't have to deal with the inequality that they've been part of. And with that, we should make sure that the marginal groups don't rise up. So I think this is part of a larger global swing to the right and to nationalism. We are inviting perceived refugees in that look like us, that talk like us, that we feel can assimilate more, because we fear the alternative. And this is not particular to the US. Actually, Viktor Orban has been running pretty much the same program in Hungary with attracting white Afrikaners to Hungary in order to stave off the people of color refugee wave and fill the country with white Christian nationalists.
So what can this do on a global basis if it continues this privileging of a certain kind of refugee or so-called refugee and denying claims by others?
I think it will continue to portray Black people as Black people, Muslim people, any brown people, gay people, as objects of fear that has to be, at worst, eradicated, at best, just pacified. It means that we create spaces where white people will always be in the majority, because we don't want to be a state like California where we think maybe white people won't be in the majority soon, because that will bode ill. I'm speaking in the mind of the agenda at the moment, right? So for me, it's a movement against any form of inclusion, any form of social justice, any form of unpacking the wrongdoings of the past. That age-old, in South Africa, you hear people saying it a lot, like people should just now forget about apartheid. It's over, it's been done. The reality is, I'm looking out my office window now, and I can see the Black Township on the ridge as I look out of my window. I live in a pretty privileged space, but only a couple of 100 yards away, people are living a very different reality. Here I can see it, but we are moving into a world where we say, my safety, my life, my comfort is more important than the people that I can see out of my window. So it is a brutality that we cannot ignore.
Where does a global democracy land if that continues? Where does this end up?
I mean, it moves us away from a democracy for all to a democracy for some. Mostly a democracy for those that we feel are most receiving, or most, what's the right word, deserving of the right to live in a democracy. So what we are seeing is the people cannot choose because, in our view, the people are dangerous, illiterate, they have different religions, they have different cultural practices. So people like those cannot engage democratically yet. This means the people who have the power right now should be the ones who hold the reins. So it's a democracy, but it's draped in absolute totalitarianism, in othering, in exclusion, and in continued extraction. And I think that is my biggest concern, that we are hollowing out the word democracy even further. And with that, further away from any form of inclusion, social capital, public good. It is essentially just about those in power can entrench their power and look after the people that look like them.
Jaco Roets, international development worker, friend of Kettering, thank you for this dispatch from South Africa and for being with us today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brad. Always great to chat to you.
You too.